Hello and welcome back to my kitchen. My son recently gifted me a copy of the Final Fantasy XIV online cookbook that was published on the 16th of this month. There are a lot of really good and challenging recipes that I am very excited to get in here and share with you guys. And I'm going to be starting off with walnut bread. The ingredients we're going to need for it are 4 cups of bread flour, 2 cups of walnuts that I toasted off in a pan on the stove, and then I ground up finely in a food processor. We're going to need 1 cup of lukewarm water, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of salt, 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast, or in my case I'm using instant. I was out of the active. And I've got 1/4 cup of melted butter here. We're also going to need 1/4 cup of something called maple cream. But to get the maple cream, we are going to need 2 cups of maple syrup. So before we can do anything with all these, we need to move over to the stove and start making our maple cream. So over here on my stove, I've gone ahead and started heating up the maple syrup. And that's all I have in here is the maple syrup. And what I'm looking for is a temperature of 234 degrees Fahrenheit. At this point, you don't want to do any stirring or anything. You just want to let this sit here and bubble away. Now, if it starts getting it to be too much of a rapid boil and rising up your pan, just simply turn your heat down a little bit and raise your pan up off the burner for a second or two. And then once it calms down, you can put it back down and just keep an eye on it. This is something you definitely don't want to walk away from. Now that I'm up to 234 degrees Fahrenheit, all I'm going to do is turn off my stove, remove my thermometer, and then I'm going to set my pot on top of a bowl of ice. And I'm going to let this sit here and cool until it reaches a temperature of 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Alright guys, so our maple syrup is off of the stove. It's reached 95 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to go ahead and sit here and stir this for the next half hour. You want to make sure you're doing this with a wooden spoon. And what we're looking for is a nice thick, almost soft butter stage. So I'll show you that once we get there. This is not something you can use an electric mixer on, unfortunately. You don't want to whip air into this. We just want to stir it until it starts thickening up and turning a nice light tannish cream color. Now that I've been stirring this for 30 minutes, it's turned a much lighter shade and it's thickened up beautifully. It's still a spreadable consistency, so I can go ahead and measure out the 1/4 cup that we need for our walnut bread. Alright guys, let's go ahead and get our bread started. I'm going to start by dumping in my 2 cups of nuts, along with the 1 tablespoon of salt and the 2 tablespoons of sugar, and then I'm just going to stir these together. By adding your nuts into the flour, it's going to allow the flour to get around all those little pieces of nut and kind of help suspend it within the batter so you don't end up with a whole bunch of nuts at the bottom of your bread and none in the middle or the top. Now that I have that stirred together, I'm going to go ahead and add my water and my melted butter along with my yeast into this bowl, and then I'm just going to whisk them together. The next thing I'm going to go ahead and add in is my maple cream. Now that I have that all whisked together, we're going to start slowly adding our flour mixture into the bowl. And you want to do this in 2 stages. We're going to start with about half of this. And then you just want to slowly start incorporating it into your wet ingredients. Now that I have the first half of the flour mixed in, I'm going to go ahead and add my remaining flour mixture. Now that I've got as much of that flour mixed in as I am going to, I'm going to go ahead and transfer it here on my counter. and try and get the remainder of this all well incorporated. And I'm also going to knead this for about 5 minutes. Alright guys, and now that I've been kneading this for 5 minutes, it's finally time to place it over into a well-greased bowl. And then I'm going to spray it with just a little bit of olive oil spray on the top. I'll cover this with a tea towel and then put it over into a warm place to let it rise for about 2 hours. Because there's nuts in this bread, it's going to take it a little bit longer to rise and double in size than your average bread. Our dough has doubled in size, so now what I'm going to do is just gently knead it for a couple of minutes. Now that I've been kneading it for a couple of minutes, I just want to start stretching it out until it's about the size of my loaf pan. I'll be using a 9 by 5 inch loaf pan today. I think that looks pretty good, so let's go ahead and transfer it in here. Now I have greased this very well with a little bit of olive oil spray. Boy, that's hard to say today. And I think that is going to do it. Now all I'm going to do is cover this with my clean tea towel again and allow it to rise for an additional hour. Alright, it's been an hour and our bread has started to rise again. So I'm going to go ahead and pop it into a 350 degree oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. And after that time, I'm going to put a piece of aluminum foil over the top of it just to prevent it from getting too dark on top, and allow it to bake for an additional 20 to 30 minutes or until it reaches an internal temperature of 190 degrees Fahrenheit or 87 degrees Celsius. So I'll see you once this is out of the oven. The walnut bread is out of the oven, and I've gone ahead and allowed it to cool here on the counter for about a half an hour. It's probably still a little warmer than what it should be ideally, but I'm really anxious to get in here and give this a try. It smells incredible. The walnuts are really well distributed throughout the bread. I'm very pleased with that, so let's go ahead and give this a try. See what we think about it. It smells absolutely incredible. The flavor is intensely walnut, which you would expect with as much walnuts as we added in there. I don't get any of the maple cream that we added. See, I don't know, I thought maybe there would be a subtle hint of maple flavor, but you absolutely can't even tell it's there at all. Overall, I really do like this bread. Is it worth the 4 hours of rising and bake time? I don't know. I think there are some simpler breads out there, but flavor-wise, it is absolutely incredible, and I highly recommend you give it a try if you have the time to put one together. But this will not be the last you see of this bread. I have one more recipe planned for it, so stay tuned for that in the next day or so. If you guys would like to be a part of the Gamers and Geeks playlist, leave me a comment down below, and I'll be more than happy to tell you how you can be a part of that list. If you guys have enjoyed this video, leave me a comment down below. If you guys tried this recipe out, let me know how it turned out for you. And as always, thank you all so very much for joining me today. I've been Vault Girl. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I hope I'll see you in the next one.